Maklaro na ninyo akong kuan?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Klaro na.
Klaro, sir.
Okay na? Maklaro ninyo akong slides?
Yes, sir. Maklaro na, sir.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Now, before we start, we'll go to some parang reminder that we'll have a natong kuan klase is to just to remind each one kuan kanini ang twice a week, and then human we'll also have a weekly learning task nga ining i-submit. Today we will discuss two lessons. Karon we discuss two lessons, lesson 1.1 and 1.2, and then that means there are two learning tasks to be accomplished. So the learning task will be submitted, the learning task will be submitted 1 week after kanag lecture, para di kay mo burden ba, so na naman po'y instruction kung unsaon ninyo pag-submit sa inyong learning task. You can actually also email to me directly, or kay tulura man mo kabuok kay man kayo makuan. And the other option is I will make a group chat, by the way, does anybody of you naghimo group chat sa atong subject karon? Wala pa? Wala pa sa inyo naghimo o group chat na to?
Kuan, sir, bali i-combine ra to ni Ma'am Divina sa duha na mo ka subject kay kuan ra man bali tulo ra pod.
Tulo. So unsa nga sa group chat?
Di ra pod paghimo tagbag-o, sir.
Himo na
Para sa ato subject.
Di pagsagol, oo. Ikaw lang himo, Joy.
Sige, sir.
Sige. Right after this, just invite me na lang kay ang ato na lang kanatong mga other mga assignments pwede raman kaayo. And then the material also that I'm going to share to you, dito na lang po na ako ipadala para kung ato magud sa akong email, matabunan na dito sa daghan po na akong emails. So, ana na lang. And then, this lecture that I'm going to do today, tonight, is actually recorded and will be recorded and will be downloadable dito sa Moodle. Pwede ninyo mabalikan dito. So, okay. Having said that, then we will continue with our lecture today, So our topic for today is on the introductory on agribusiness, or introductory topic on agribusiness, So as I have said, the whole semester nga undergrad nga agribusiness will only be discussed like 2 meetings, diri nato. All the rest of the topics will be a different one because we will tackle on advanced topics in agribusiness, So right now we start our discussion on the introduction and the characteristics of agribusiness. Then after that, we will go into systems analysis. So again, good evening to everyone. Welcome to this course, AMGT 212, Advanced Agribusiness Management. Now, in this particular course, we will discuss not only the introductory or the basic tenets of agribusiness, but we will also be discussing on what are the advances in agribusiness, and how does agribusiness also relate with other fields. No? So, as a starting lecture for this particular, subject, the subject is divided into actually 6 modules. No? There are 6 modules in this class, and then each module is divided into lessons. Now, this will go from basic to intermediate to advanced topics in agribusiness. So, module 1 is introductory portion, or introduction to agribusiness management. Now, module 1 is composed of 4 lessons. Okay, so right now we will discuss on lesson 1.1 and 1.2. So in this module, Introduction to Agribusiness, the first lesson is on the basic introduction of agribusiness. So that's lesson 1, no? Or lesson 1.1, because this is module 1. No? Now, as an introduction, there is that what we call as the notional thinking of agriculture, no? Now, or notional thinking of agribusiness, that agriculture is rather garbled and unsystematic activities outside the realm of agricultural production. So, in other words, uh, agriculture and agribusiness notionally, or there are some people who are thinking that it's outside agricultural production when it is not. No? Now, furthermore, the boundaries of agriculture, uh, but rather than cross-cutting boundaries, it's also cross-cutting boundaries of agribusiness. No? In other words, there is an overlap. There are like boundaries between the two, agriculture and agribusiness, that overlaps. In other words, they are very much related. Moreover, there is also uh, some notional thinking or notional thought that agriculture is only farming. Okay, and this is also erroneous in a way, because farmer today could not come close to the current level of production without the support of agribusiness. In other words, without agribusiness, the farming activity today will not prosper. You know why? Because we know that agriculture or agribusiness is actually uh, producing something for the market. It's market oriented. So if you are not market oriented, then you are subsistence farming. That is not agribusiness. Subsistence farming is not agribusiness. But when you start talking about agribusiness, that means to say you produce surplus for the market. Okay, it's not agribusiness. We have to emphasize that agribusiness is not kitchen-oriented farming. Agribusiness is market-oriented farming. From the word agribusiness, if there is no business agenda, then it's not agribusiness. It's purely subsistence farming. But agriculture, as it is now advocated, is really also seen from the lens of agribusiness. That means agriculture is able to produce not only for the one cultivating or domesticating crops or livestock, but it is also a vehicle towards providing the needs of our society. Okay. Now, another thing is agribusiness also, no? Another thing is that agribusiness leads the way in finding a different trajectory of agriculture. That is actually true, no? In other words, agribusiness is the one leading the growth path of agriculture. Now, one author said that agribusiness is, so they say, uh, it's an open space concept of agribusiness, including those mythical nature, and clarifies whole argument that by the end of this section, emphasizing that agribusiness is really an agricultural production, but more emphasis really also on producing surplus for the market. Remember, I would emphasize that agribusiness is a farming endeavor that produces surplus for the market. If it does not produce something for the market, then it's outside the realm of agribusiness. Okay. Moreover, agribusiness veers away. No, it veers away from the what? Uh, from the uh, normal concept of subsistence agriculture. Okay. Now let's go to the definition, concepts, and dimensions of agribusiness. Okay. Now, when we say agribusiness, it means agribusiness are business and manufacturing activities involved in, okay, supplying inputs needed to farming and marketing of products grown on the farm, which includes also goods and services produced on the farm and commodities that are also processed out of them. No? So, so that means to say, from this definition, it clearly says that agribusiness implies an interdependence between the input procurement and input management of input for agricultural production and down to the market. So it gives us a whole gamut of connection between the input, say procurement or input, the business and the input sector or system, down to the agricultural production, then down to the market, and so on and so forth, and such and so. That means to say, as these different segments in the entire agribusiness continuum connects, it also means that all these business establishments or business uh, entities connected to various activities in agribusiness are also interdependent. Okay, no? They're also interdependent. In other words, one particular business or one particular, yeah, business establishment operating in the agribusiness continuum, if something happens there, it affects the whole continuity of the agribusiness system. Okay. Now, another is in agribusiness, it also includes marketing functions. That means converting farm products into desired form. Like you produce raw sweet potato and then you sell that cooked, or you sell that a big maybe processed like vacuum fried, or you sell that in juice form. That's basically part of agribusiness. Vegetables can be sold raw, or it can be sold chopped, or yeah, chopped into uh, like specific sizes. No? So now agribusiness is so much connected with the marketing functions of the whole economy. No, if you sell products from agriculture, the selling actually is part of agribusiness. If you process raw materials from agricultural production, that processing is actually part of like agribusiness. In other words, agribusiness simply is not limited to agricultural production. It involves processing, it involves marketing, and even those related services associated in making the whole continuum of agribusiness function normally. Like, for example, those forwarders, those transport facilities, those processors, and uh, any of those provider, logistics provider is actually part of agribusiness if what they are handling is actually agriculture related, either inputs in agriculture. Okay, another conceptual definition of agribusiness is that agribusiness is actually what is actually a young discipline in agricultural economics. No, it was started in 1957 with by the publication of a book we call The Concept of Agribusiness, written by Davis and Ray Goldberg, no? John Davis and Ray Goldberg. Remember, A Concept in Agribusiness. It is relatively an old book, but it is so much useful today because that serves as the foundation in the concept of agribusiness. Now, From 1957, it took about 10 years before it was introduced in the Philippines. Because in the Philippines, it was introduced in the University of the Philippines, UPLB, in 1966. Okay? And then now it became a regular program of the UPLB, no? Agribusiness Management and Entrepreneurship. Now, in 1969, the, the first advanced agribusiness management seminar was held in Manila. Okay, so it is relatively a younger field, no, compared with other discipline. Now, agribusiness from Davis and Goldberg definition, agribusiness can be defined as the sum total of all operations involved in manufacture and distribution of farm inputs or supplies, production activities of the farm, storage and processing, and distribution of farm commodities and items made from them. Okay, I'll repeat that. The sum total of all operations involved in manufacture and distribution of farm inputs, okay, or farm supplies, production and distribution, production activities on the farm, and then you have storage, processing of and distribution of farm commodities and items made from them. Okay, when you talk about distribution, you're talking about marketing. Okay, when you talk about, say, storage and processing, you're actually talking about processing, no, manufacturing. And when you talk about production activities on the farm, you're talking about agricultural production. And more so, if you talk about manufacturing and distribution of farm supplies or farm inputs, you're talking about input, say, input supply management. So what can we visualize in terms of the definition of agribusiness? Conceptually, if you visualize the definition of agribusiness, it involves the whole gamut of activities and business activities and related activities, starting from procurement of inputs, agricultural production, processing, and marketing of farm products or farm commodities, and even items made from them. Any items. It could be like uh, vitamins. It could be like, for example, juice. It could be what have you, as long as it is coming from agricultural produce. Okay, from raw root crop or tuber crop, it becomes powder. OB root to a powdered OB for ice cream manufacturing. And ice cream, if it is really, of course, it is coming from dairy materials, or it is also coming from like powdered farm commodities mixed together in a certain process, you produce ice cream. That's agribusiness, because the traceability in terms of being a being being a derivative product from agricultural production is still very clear. Okay, that means to say, if you if you if you eat, for example, take a cup of ice cream, OB flavored ice cream, you still are able to really detect and taste the taste of OB in that ice cream. Now the OB is agricultural produce. Now that particular product is agribusiness product. It is different when you say, like for example, from rubber tree. Okay, you produce rubber. What say the raw rubber for manufacturing? Okay, the raw rubber. How do you call that? It's actually a uh, a dough or something like that, no? Rubber. The kanang iyang katas ng rubber. It's agribusiness. But once it becomes car tires, the car tires is no longer agribusiness product unless it is used to transport agricultural product. But the service there is transportation. The rubber is actually a product of industrial product. It's quite far from direct agribusiness connection. So that's something of something to think about, the dimensions of agribusiness, up to where agribusiness ends and pure business starts. Okay, where agribusiness ends, pure business starts, something like that. No, so we need to clearly define the boundary between agribusiness and pure business. So this definition is very clear. No, and items made from them. So items, that means to say from agricultural products to something like any particular product out of agricultural products. It is part of agribusiness. But once you produce a product that is already very, very far from agriculture, it becomes pure business already. Like, for example, palm oil, okay? Palm oil, processing of palm oil, okay? Or oil palm. And then you get the oil for cooking. And then you produce, you reprocess again the oil, you produce lubricant for cars. The lubricant is no longer agribusiness. It's already a derivative of a certain product undergoing certain process. Now it becomes industrial product already. Now, the market for the lubricant is already pure business in the car manufacturing. So that is something like that. So another thing is agribusiness system has undergone a rapid, by the way, rapid transformation. New industries have evolved and traditional farming operations have grown larger and more specialized. Through the years, it's it's happening like that, no? Through the years. So a transformation did not happen also over time, but it came slowly as a response to a variety of forces, no? The transformation in agribusiness. Now, what are these forces? The environmental forces and the economic forces. Even what we're experiencing today, this pandemic, it's driving agribusiness to a different trajectory. Before, you can buy any particular product face to face, physical contact. But now, the e-commerce is becoming more popular, or digital marketing is becoming more popular. Okay, so that's how agribusiness transformed these days. Now, the agribusiness also traverses transnational boundaries, various with various formats of product and service catering to ever-changing taste and preference of customers. Okay. Now, the new normal, if there is a new normal in terms of our lifestyle, there is also a new normal in agribusiness. The new normal in agribusiness platform is agribusiness of today is innovation based and market driven. No? Innovation based and market driven. Okay, so that is the agribusiness of today. So we when we talk about what when we talk about uh, agribusiness, what we talk about the agribusiness driven uh, say a strategy or something like that. No? So another tenets of agribusiness is agribusiness in the new millennium evolved as a dynamic and systematic endeavor. No? Now, according to Edwards and Schultz in 2005, no? Now agribusiness has evolved to be not only market driven but environmentally conscious. Okay, according to Schultz, it evolved as a dynamic and systematic endeavor that serves the customer globally and locally through innovation and of a management of a multiple value chains that deliver goods derived from sustainable orchestration of food, fiber, and resources. In other words, it's not only providing uh, services locally and globally, but it is also biased on like providing sustainable management of food, fiber, and natural resource. No? Resources are dwindling, so agribusiness has to think about that, because there will be time that we run out of raw materials. So agribusiness, a responsible agribusiness, will always think about like sustainable future and sustainable market. So that's why the agribusiness of the new millennium is not only aiming for global, global and local, like innovation-based competitiveness, but it is also aimed at sustainable agribusiness systems. Now, dimensions of agribusiness. Now, dimensions of agribusiness comes in various forms. No? First is agribusiness deals with different components, both agricultural and industrial sector. It goes within the interdependence between one sector and the other. Okay, that's one, say, dimensions in agribusiness. Deals with interdependent components. Furthermore, it also deals with decision-making process from private, government, and in relation to production and selling aspect. Furthermore, it also deals with the strength and weaknesses of a project and thereby their viability in competing enterprise. And lastly, agribusiness is always market-oriented. Okay? If you are not aiming for the market, it's not agribusiness. It's subsistence farming. And subsistence farming is not agribusiness. That's why if you think about agribusiness, you think about value adding, or why is the value adding? Because it's the market that provides, that defines value, and when you serve the needs of that market, you earn a certain margin, and that margin is actually value addition as a result of being able to serve market needs. Okay, so that is the natural result of a viable agribusiness is being able to serve the market and earn margins in the process. Okay. Furthermore, uh, agribusiness is also vertical, and it comprises the following, no? Like government policies, even research programs from the government, and farm supplies and inputs, production and processing of and marketing of agricultural products. So by the looks and visualization of that, we already think about, or we already can say that agribusiness is actually what is it is actually uh, the uh, the vertical structure of the economy, no? The vertical structure of the economy. Now, furthermore, in lesson one, to summarize, okay, to summarize the topic in lesson one, we talk about the definition of agribusiness, the agribusiness in the new millennium, and agribusiness as compared to subsistence farming. When we say subsistence farming, we mean it's a farming activity that does not produce for the market. That means only for the kitchen. But when you talk about agribusiness, it is actually producing surplus for the market. That is the core of the lesson in lesson 1.1. Okay? Now, that particular lesson also introduces us to the uh, agribusiness, the new normal of agribusiness. It's innovation driven and market based, but also environmentally conscious. Okay? Because of our orientation and emphasis on sustainable agribusiness. So that's initially the picture of agribusiness this time. No? Now, given here in this on screen is your learning task. Okay. Now, if you review the paper, this presentation, there is a publication by Davis and Goldberg in 1957. Okay, so you go to HBSP online. Okay, like what is HBSP? Harvard Business, like Harvard Business Publication. Okay, hbsp.edu. Okay, you access the original paper of Davis and Goldberg. Okay, you access that and then write a one-page summary of the article in 500 words. Okay, in 500 words, that means you can write actually more than 500, but it should be contained in one page. Just maybe siguro mga 1.5 nga spacing. That's one page summary. No? So take note of that. No? Now, furthermore, we proceed to module 1.2. We discuss about characteristics of agribusiness. We discuss about dimensions. We discuss about definition. Now we discuss on the characteristic of agribusiness. The greatest driver of change in agribusiness today is the fast and highly evolving global market that cuts across transnational boundaries. Okay? Which is departing also from the conventional business model of vertical integration and focusing more on vertical coordination among network players. Okay, what does this mean? Now, in agribusiness, there is in the if you visualize agribusiness today, now agribusiness today is really driven by globalized economy. Okay, globalized economy. When you say globalized economy, now the agribusiness establishments or entities operating in the market is actually operating interconnectively with each other, and it cuts across transnational boundaries. In other words, the agribusiness chain is connected from the input to the output to the market and so on and so forth. No, that means to say each particular segment in agribusiness is operating a different business and also can be operating in a different geographical location, and it is also operating in different agribusiness subsystem. Okay, you might find like the plantation is in Ecuador, the the plantation is in Ecuador, but the fertilizer is coming from China, or the processing is, for example, located in the Philippines, and the market is actually for the US. It can be like that. So in other words, you can see the the new trend in agribusiness as an interconnected global value chain. In other words, instead of one firm vertically integrated from input to the market, we can see a whole gamut of different firms connected, coordinating each other from location to different, like for example, nature of business, coordinating each other, serving a specific needs in the market, crossing transnational boundaries. No? So it's actually a whole gamut of connection between various firms. Now that is one characteristic. Agribusiness today is global. Another characteristic of agribusiness is that it is actually an interdependent connection of various business establishments. One is a business establishment in the service sector, and then you also have the industrial sector, and you also have the agricultural sector connected together agribusiness. In other words, agribusiness as a sector is actually partly agriculture, partly industrial, and partly service. Okay? What are the services connected to agribusiness? Can you think of one? Banks. It's actually providing financing to agriculture. What else? You have for example, not only banks, but also even, like for example, say, transport, hauling services, logistics. They are providing communication. Okay, don't you know that the ICT is actually being used for a lot of other things in agribusiness, either for transacting customers or even serving a specific function in the production activities using the internet, or like we call it, the Internet of Things. No? Now, in it is a vertical coordination. No? Now, it is a connection between various sectors in the economy. Now, another is agribusiness deals with the agricultural sector, like also portions in the industrial sector, and so on. But it basically contributes an essential part of the national economy. That's why when you dichotomize the contribution of agriculture in the economy, agriculture could be contributing only to the economy in terms of, like, for example, 20%. But when you add up the contribution of agribusiness to the economy, it is so huge, no? More than, it could be like more than double, no? Because there are a lot of other services and activities outside agricultural production that provides income to the economy. Okay, so in other words, agribusiness, in fact, is a vital part of the national economy. So what is important in agribusiness is that there is a workable, engaged, and clearly defined connection between these interdependent parts of the agribusiness. The linkage is well defined. So another is agribusiness in terms of structure has five important independent, we call it independent sectors. Okay. One is an agribusiness is composed of the input sector, the product sector, the marketing, and the processing. Okay, so that means a product from the farm actually connects itself from the input, the seeds. You plant the seeds, you cultivate, and you grow the seeds, and you harvest the fruit, and process the fruit, and market the products made from them. So that's the whole connection of agribusiness. If you think about agriculture, it only stops in the agricultural production. But if you think about agribusiness, it connects all the related activities from input down to the market. So agribusiness has a much wider uh, scope than agricultural production. Pwede nga na ikamoingon nga BS in agribusiness, major in agricultural production, or major in agriculture. Kung katawa ka, uy, ang agriculture na major naman. That is true. Why? Conceptually, agribusiness is much wider than agriculture, because agriculture is just uh, farm production or agricultural production, planting to harvesting. That's agriculture. But when you talk about agribusiness, it emanates from the input supply, agricultural production, down the line up to the market. So mas malawak ang ang scope ng agribusiness. So another thing is, from Davis and Goldberg in 1957 up to the early millennial period by Schultz, 2005, there is a commonality and agreement in looking at agribusiness as a vertical slice or structure of the entire economy with interdependent segments or components. No? So wala na otro ang kang Davis and Goldberg by Edwards and Schultz in 2005. Can you imagine? 1957 to 2005. That's almost 50 years. Wag yan po na otro ang kang Goldberg. But gipunan hinoon ni Schultz. Gimodernize ni Schultz. It is based on no, innovation based or innovation based and market driven, plus of course the bias towards environmental sustainability. So that's very very important in terms of how the literature like evolved in the discipline of agribusiness. So you have the you can actually download the original paper of Edward and Schultz when it comes to agribusiness. You just browse, you just Google market driven agribusiness or Edward and Schultz, then you dash like agribusiness. You can find that. You can find that or Edward and Schultz 2005. You Google that, you can find the original article of these two guys. No? Now, from the structural point of view, agribusiness is composed of various interrelated components. The objective is to serve the ever-changing market. Take note of the word or underscore the word ever-changing market demand. Okay? Market is so volatile and agribusiness is serving that. No? Now, uh, that is the that is the currency of agribusiness, market preference. The core essence of entrepreneurial activity or characteristics of agribusiness is really serving or developing market for products without a market. That is the core challenge of agribusiness. You develop a product without, you market a product without a product market. That means to say, you are able to identify strategically the needs of your customers and able to produce product really able to serve their preference. That is entrepreneurial characteristic of agribusiness. Meaning to say, you make things happen even before they come. Okay? So innovation-based. That is what we call as innovation-based agribusiness. Because innovation and entrepreneurial creativity actually is one. They are one. No? Now, furthermore, agribusiness also involves coordinators or facilitators. Who are these coordinators or facilitators? Now, these are the stakeholders in the entire connection. Who are the stakeholders? Who are the facilitators? The government agencies, like for example, sa agricultural production, we have DA. Sa processing, we have DTI or DOST. There is a input side, we have the fertilizer manufacturer, or we have the industry association of all those input manufacturers, or several other public or private facilitators in making agribusiness function normally, making sure that agribusiness function normally. In other words, these coordinators and facilitators actually lubricates the entire functioning of the because sometimes very slow ang response sa agribusiness function because someone else is controlling the whole flow, either by herding or either withholding information. Now, the facilitators will enable to provide lubricants in terms of providing information that should be available publicly, like price information, quality information, results of research. These are valid information that is very important for what? For the normal functioning of agribusiness. Now, these are these are parts of the facilitators of agribusiness. Now another thing is due to an expanding market that cuts across a transnational boundary. Now there is a call, or there is a what? There is a necessity that agribusiness, that entities in the agribusiness will vertically coordinate. Gone are the days you have vertical integration. For example, you own the factory, you also own the store, and you own the what? The, the raw material uh, producer, and you also own the fertilizer company. Niadto na. But this time, there is vertical coordination. Okay, in order to serve a better market, not only locally but also globally. That is also the characteristic of modern or millennial agribusiness. Okay, so we are we are done with lesson 1.1 and 1.2. Okay, so we have to end this lesson or this session this evening. We have you have your learning task also. No? Okay. Now, next meeting, okay, we before we start our lecture, I will set aside, like anyway, tulor mo kabo. I will set aside a uh, a recitation time, maybe 30 minutes. Each one of you will tell me or will discuss in the class, each one, at least 5 minutes kada usa, 15 minutes pa. Okay? Sharing of ideas, lesson learned in related work you have. Okay? Experience related to agribusiness. So this will be a class workshop and recitation. Now remember, if you are working in a kuan, uh, in a line agencies of the government, how is your line of work fitted in the whole continuum of agribusiness? Asa man allocate na? Tell us something about it. Why do you think it is connected to agribusiness? If you are selling something, if you are engaged in business, tell me kuno, how does it relate to agribusiness? And why is it related to agribusiness? Conceptually, you can like locate or situate your what you are doing now, either privately or you are working somebody else's firm. Tell me how is it connected to agribusiness? Maybe you are working in a travel agency or tourist related work. You might say, di man related ng akong sponsor kay naman ko sa travel agency. Are you sure? Tanawa ko nagmaayo kung di ba na related sa sa an agribusiness. I'm not going to tell you why. But it's a challenge. A thought-provoking na say item that even this kind of business may connection na agribusiness. Di man connected sa agribusiness ako, sir. Naman ko sa I'm working on a one like I'm selling clothes. I connected it as agribusiness. If you are selling clothes, asa man ang himong clothes, di man nagikan, something like that. So, tell me something or let's share. I mean, kamo tagsa-tagsa kada usa sa inyo. And no need to write, just be prepared orally to discuss in 5 minutes what you think about agribusiness and why do you think that what you are doing now is some kind of related to agribusiness. Pero og dili yun na related sa agribusiness, you also have to be kay maklaro man po. I'm working as a kanang bitang na ako sa machine shop. Machine shop. Is it related to agribusiness? It depends. No? It depends. If you are working in a machine shop, but that machine shop repairs tractor, repairs mga howler tower, that's related to agribusiness. No? But if say machine shop, mga car racer, mga SUV, mga no relationship at all. So it's clearly easily to detect whether what you are doing is connected to agribusiness. And I will tell you, class, that after the discussion, makaingon jud ka na dako dako gid eksaklaw ang agribusiness because it's almost like many of the things we are doing daily actually is connected to agribusiness. No? Actually connected to agribusiness. But I'm not saying it's all everything, but there are a lot of them. No? A lot of them. So ang ato lang is para ma-simplify inyong line of work asa mo nagtrabaho karon. Okay? So maybe line of work or line of business if you are doing something else as a private individual. Okay? So that's going to be oral, no? It's just a parang oral recitation. I will like tell you how to rate our discussion, no? Because during the discussion, I will tell you, ikaw, Mary Joy, mahimo kang rate ka ni ana, nga ikaw si Perlin, mo rate ka ni ana. So, ato na nako ni announce inig meet na to. So that means ang imong rating and plus your classmates rating plus my rating will constitute the final rating, ang average niya. No? Sa kaninga lesson task. So, ang inyong written learning task, katong ganina, katong one page nga summary sa original paper ni Davis and Goldberg. Okay? Katong ilang original paper. So, that would, So, with that note, I would say, that is where we are going to stop our lecture for this evening, no? So I will also like record